All right, so we're gonna go into the last little bits here of Animal Farm. Now, we were starting to get this hint.
This was the 8, 9, and 10. I just grabbed 8, 9.
Oh, 8, 9, 9, 10.
I didn't read 10.
Well, I just wanted to start talking about some of the stuff anyways. Now, most of the stuff we're talking about is chapter 8 and 9. Yeah. Chapter 10 is quite short, if I recall, actually. Chapter 10 was yeah, chapter 10 was like 9 pages long, something like that. Like chapter 9 is just kind of like a let's look forward chapter 10 is just looking forward a couple of years. Chapter 8 and 9 are the big boys here. So as long as you have that, yeah, you'll see. So basically in this chapter, we're starting to see some of the things that were hinted at in our previous chapters, right? So now what we want to look at here is we are firmly under Napoleon's leadership here. And there is a new social and political structure. And so this restructure leads to many changes in power and privilege among the animals. So I just want to go over now to some of the differences between how the pigs live and how the other animals live. Now, the two big ones, which are already on here, are going to be, well, actually, no, they're not fully on there. So let's start talking about it. So let's talk about life for the pigs. What is it like right now as a pig? Is it a good life during these chapters? What is it like right now as a pig? Is it a good life if you're a pig right now?
Get all of the rules school and then they get to
Yeah.
to eat every day and they're getting fat while everyone else is just eat.
Yes, so that's good. So I'm going to bring up some of those points when we go to the other column, but we know the pigs are eating lots. They're getting fatter. We know that the pigs are getting educated as well. The animals, only 2 of them can read at this point. So there's plenty of food, there's education. They're living in the farmhouse, which means in the winter, they're warm in the winter. They have friends as well, specifically the dogs. So if you're allied to the pigs, if you're a dog right now, your life is also good. Right? The dogs are also very well fed. The dogs also live inside. What about for rules? Like what happens if a pig breaks a rule?
Nothing.
Yeah. They which? So the pigs can break the rules, and you know what? If they do break the rules, you know what they can do? You can just change them. They can change them afterwards. And yes, and generally speaking, yeah. So they just have a good life.
What's the meeting possible?
Try closing it out again. There shouldn't be one. If you try closing it out and joining it again. If you need one, I can try and find it. Yeah, we shouldn't need one. And then let's talk about life for the other animals. Well, we can kind of just like, oh, sorry. And before this as well, they're also at this point, they're the ruling class, right? There is complete inequality here. So now I want to go into life of the other animals. We know they work less food. We know they get less food. We know they work longer hours. They can't read. They sleep in the cold. If you go against the pigs, they're punished, usually by death. If they break the rules, they're punished. Generally speaking, they probably at this point have a bad life. And they work harder than ever. So at this point, it is worse now under their leadership than it is under Jones's leadership. And there's more here. There's more than just that. Yes, now they're drinking every day, right? Now they have beer set aside in their rations now.
Like, no animals allowed to drink or animals, and then they're allowed to eat. And they're wearing clothes too.
And they which?
They're wearing clothes too.
And they're wearing clothes, absolutely. So we're gonna talk about all these changes in the rules shortly. Let me. So jumping into it here. Now, this is a personal response here. So now for this personal response here, this is just something for you to kind of think about. You don't even have to write this if you don't want. But the big thing here is when we're at the novel's end in here, again, a couple of years have passed now at this point. Very few people even remember Joneses and the rebellion and stuff like that. Do we find it uplifting, depressing, or cynical? Cynical just basically means it's another word for it's basically another word for depressing. So I'll let you get to that, but so I'm just gonna go into these ones here. So in chapter 8, we have Napoleon. He had deals with Frederick and Pinkelton. If you remember, these are his two neighbors. These are his two farmer neighbors. Now this kind of represents some stuff in history. So here's what happened basically with this. So let's do a plot summary to start with. So Frederick, one of the farmers, tricked Napoleon by buying lumber, wood.
Oh, and they got fake money.
Yeah, with counterfeit money. And then attacked the farm to blow up the windmill. So this is the plot summary of it, right? And if you remember here, so what ended up happening was Napoleon went back and forth.
Okay, we go to personal response to just ours.
Personal response is just yours, yeah. So this represents something in real life history. So this represents the beginnings of World War II, actually. So in World War II in Europe, there was three main players. There was United Kingdom, England. There was Nazi Germany, Hitler. And then there was the Soviet Union. So what ended up happening was in the early 1940s, the Soviet Union, modern day Russia, signed an agreement with Hitler that they will not be aggressive towards each other. They will not fight each other because there's a war going on in Europe at this time, right? And what ends up happening was Hitler ambushes the USSR. He completely invades, takes a lot of the land, causes a lot of destruction. So this is what this symbolizes. So Fredericton represents Germany. So just like how Germany did a surprise attack, broke the alliance with the USSR, so did Frederick. And if you remember, before, early in the chapter, he was talking about, oh, Frederick, this is awful farm. Things are so bad there. The animals, they're treated so bad, the worst in England. And then after he makes the deal, oh, no, they're really good, right? That's just the propaganda machine kind of spinning here. So Fredericton tricked Napoleon by buying timber with counterfeit money and then attacked him to blow up the windmill. So that's what he's kind of representing here. Now, that's Fredericton. Pickleton. So Pickleton. So after this happened, Pilkington, thank you. My coffee got cold. So Pilkington represents the UK. It's England, right? Who represents the UK and becomes friends after the attack. So that just mirrors modern day history, right? So Soviet Russia gets attacked by Nazi Germany. They ally with the UK, and together they completely devastate. That's a big reason why Hitler lost the war, is he attacked the USSR and they came back with a vengeance.
Well, okay, but which one was Hitler?
Hitler was Frederick, the guy who did the
Oh.
counterfeit money. Yeah. And now we get to, in my opinion, the saddest part of the book. Boxer, the horse. Sorry. So let's talk about Boxer here. So what happens? So first off, so other animals come running up and they're like, oh my God, Boxer, he's fallen in the field. He can't get back up, right? So how does he?
I think he's overworked himself.
Yeah, he overworked himself to injury. He had spent years and years like working all day, every day, like nonstop, harder than anyone else. He overworked himself to injury. So that's what happened to him. That's how he initially gets like injured and sick here. He's what?
Underfed.
Yeah, and he was underfed, he wasn't sleeping. Yeah, absolutely. Like this was just a natural conclusion, right? So, and he's older now, he's close to retirement age.
Yeah, but I think he, like, just bullshit, he went to swallow it.
So let's talk about that. So this is 1 month before retirement. 1 month, there you go. So, okay, so what does Napoleon say? We're gonna send Boxer to a vet, to a hospital. They're gonna take care of him. So Boxer gets sent, and I'm putting this in quotes, to the vet for treatment. Where is he actually sent though? He's actually sent to the slaughterhouse to be turned to glue. And they know this because they read the van, right? The van said like slaughterhouse, like horse, puts down horses and slaughterhouse, something like that. I forget the exact title, but like it was very clear that they sent Boxer to die. And, of course, all the animals are, oh, okay, and then Napoleon and Squealer come out and they're like, oh no, he died after 3 days. He had these nice messages for us. We never got to see his body. There's only really one person who calls BS on this. There's actually 2 people who call BS on this, and that's just the 2 non-pig animals who can read. One's our donkey, one's our other horse. Finally, so now we're coming to those 5th and 6th commandments. If you don't remember what those are, page 15 of your book. Page 15 of your book. We'll bring those up there. I don't know the actual process, but yeah, like horses and cows back in the day, that's part of how glue was made. They were some type of ingredient, yeah. So the 5th and 6th commandment. Now those ones, no animal shall drink alcohol, no animal shall kill. Yes, so they changed, the pigs changed. I'm just gonna put the rules. No animal shall drink. You can just put in excess, like you'll understand what that means too. No animal shall drink in excess, right? We changed, no, you don't drink to, you won't drink in excess. They also changed one to no animal shall kill without just cause. So it went from no, you'll never kill anyone to you have to have a really good reason for it. And who always has the good reasons? Napoleon, right? So these are changed. And generally speaking, how do the animals like react to this?
Like they just go along with it,
they're like, oh, I thought I remembered it differently. Well, I guess if it's on the wall, that's what it is. And then, Squealer comes in, he does some really nice wordplay and everything, convinces them. But what does that all represent? Their like acceptedness of it, like, oh, I guess I was wrong. They're Squealer coming out and doing things. Basically, so what Orwell, the author here, the point he's making.
Shall kill without just cause.
Shall kill without just cause, yeah. So what Orwell here is saying at this point is he's saying the points he's kind of making here. Sorry, I know that's in the way. I'll move that. There, do that. So this is a long one. You can shorten this if you want, but basically, those in power can use propaganda and manipulation of language to control the public perception is the word I guess I'm going to use there. So basically, like, this is a long-winded way of saying the pigs rewrote history to best meet their own interests. And let's do this. Okay. Let's see, yeah, two more questions here. So in chapter 10, so one of the big reveals here that happens in chapter 10 is all the animals are outside, ready for some big thing that's going to happen, right? And what ends up happening is all the pigs start walking in on two legs. All the pigs start walking. Look at the bottom of the page, right? So it's weird. And remember, what was what was the phrase about legs? So 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. They're going to change the rules again. Absolutely. I'm just going up to. There we go. There it is. All right. So the pigs begin to walk on 2 legs. So in this case here, there's a couple of interpretations of this. Is this evolution a sign of progress? What do you guys think? Like, is this a good sign that the pigs?
Okay, pig walking.
Yeah. So is this a good sign that the pigs are walking on 2 feet?
No.
No.
They're becoming, how do you say, institutionalized by themselves.
You're saying so institutional. I spelled that wrong because
I think they are, because they're becoming everything they don't want to do.
Absolutely. And so that's what I'm hoping someone was make here, right? So at this point, the pigs have become the original enemy. The original enemy was humans, greed, people hoarding power and food and resources for themselves, right? So you could expand on the original enemy here, but I'm just going to keep it simple for right now, but you're welcome to do that. But they've become the very thing that they fought and overthrew, right? It's gone full circle now at this point. by all intents and purposes, not only are they Jones, they're worse than Jones at this point. Do you remember? Let me load up let me load up a thing here. Yes, on page like 92 and 93, right? They bring all the other farmers in for a poker game that they're gonna play cards with. So there's a bunch of there's a bunch of pigs, there's a bunch of people, they're talking with each other, and what they say is the farmers are in such disbelief, they're so impressed with Animal Farm because not only are you using all the most up-to-date methods, but a discipline and orderliness, which should be an example for farmers everywhere. He believed he was right in saying that the lower animals, the lower caste of animals on Animal Farm did more work and received less food than any animals in the country. So, yes, last chapter, yeah. And so yeah, they did more work and received less food than any other animal in the country. So the pigs have become an original enemy, and this phrase changed. Remember, they took the sheep for a week, and what they say is 4 legs good, 2 legs better. Now the saying has changed. They took the sheep out for a week. We're going to talk about what the characters represent here very shortly after we finish this last question.
Better.
That was the words they used. And then finally, just our last, I think it's our last question. Yes, that'll be our last question. So now we're just talking on the book itself, Orwell, the author. So Orwell, the person who wrote the book, suggests that pigs and human political leaders are interchangeable. We never really learned a whole lot about different political leaders. So I want to instead focus on the second part of this question. How might power change those who have it?
Their ego gets inflated.
Yeah, so
like fucking Trudeau, who doesn't even keep his promises. Bullshit.
So they begin to rule unchecked, basically, right? You can start ruling unchecked, essentially. So when you have power, essentially speaking, power can corrupt even those with noble intentions, right? When they took the farm, when the pigs were in charge originally, the goal wasn't we're going to hoard power for ourselves. That was not the goal. But but they had enough power. Not only did they have power, it was he wasn't noble to begin. You're right with that one. I think that's a really good observation in that. I think me personally, I think Snowball had some really good intentions from the get-go. He was always reading books, trying to improve farms, had plans. Napoleon, not so much. But power can corrupt those, even those with good intentions. Was every pig? Did every pig have evil intentions? Not really. Probably just Napoleon. Right. So power can corrupt even those with noble intentions. And it shows the need for, I'm going to use the word accountability and scrutiny here. It shows the need for accountability and scrutiny with power, which basically means you can't have unchecked power. There needs to be some balances in place, right? Like right now, you mentioned Trudeau. You know what? Yeah, if he's not keeping his promises, I think that was the example you used, then he should get voted out. That's an example of power. There's other examples where his own party could turn him if they wanted to. The other parties could join together and go against him if he wanted. So there are some examples there of some there's some scrutiny there, right? He can't, like right now, Trudeau, for example, he's an advocate for gun bans, right? That's a really hard thing to get past, because there's so many checks and balances in place that might not want that.
Did you ever kill chicken?
Did I ever what?
Kill chicken?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I've eaten lots of chicken. I don't think I've killed one. Goose, yes. Yes. Turn them into jerky. Geese don't count, they're assholes. Okay, and so now I just want to go over the characters here. So this is at the very top, very top. I just want to talk about some of the actual animals here and what they represent.
At the very top where?
It's like page, I don't actually know what page, but it's one of the first couple pages. Like it's this big chart here. So I just want to go into quickly talking about.
I didn't see what was on the.
Like this, or?
Number 5. Correspondence. I don't know what you said.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the animals here and specifically what they represent. So the characteristics, actions, and purpose. So remember, the whole story kind of talked here about the old major. He was I'm just going to put, I guess, respect for the sake of time. He was a respected pig, right? And we're going to talk about what each of these creatures represents in real world society. Remember, this book is a satire on the actual Soviet Russia in the 30s and 40s and earlier. So he was a respected pig by everyone, and he represents someone called Karl Marx. Basically, Karl Marx was the person who proposed an idea which basically led to the ideals, oh my gosh, which is the ideals of an equal society, of a just society. Again, it's not a history class, so I don't have time to go through like the full.
Like, yeah. Oh, Major died right?
Major, what, sorry?
He died.
Yeah, he died right away, right? Yeah, he was really old at the time. Again, I'm just putting some of the bait, like, you could say, oh, he was a pig and he was old. You can put that information there just for the sake of time. I'm not. So now I'm going to talk about Snowball. We know Snowball, of course, is a pig. Specifically, he's very intelligent and was a talker. So the question kind of comes down here, so at his core, Snowball tried to improve the farm, right? He truly believed in the future of the farm and wanted to work together. He believed in the old major and the principles that he kind of stood for. So he represented, if you remember Trotsky, that was in that one page thing that we had looked at before. Remember, there was Trotsky and there was Stalin, who both took control of Soviet after a revolution. So he represented Trotsky, and then he was later chased away, right? And so he was treated as a boogeyman. It's like, it's like, oh, weeds in the field. Snowball came at night and planted weed seeds. So he was blamed for everything, right? Whereas Napoleon, also a pig, the words they used were large and stubborn, right? Snowball was the talker. Napoleon was the guy who used force to get what he wanted. So he never really actively improved the farm. So he did not improve the farm. That was never his real goal.
He's the pig.
He represent well, he used pigs for a very specific purpose. He oh yeah, he was the daddy of all of them, but he used pigs very purposely, right? Because to show like greed, like pigs will eat themselves, so on and so forth. But basically, he represents Stalin, and he was completely corrupted by power. We also have Squealer, who is also a pig. Now, if you remember, Squealer is the one who always tries to he's the one who spins the narrative, tells the stories, gets all the other animals to believe him. So he's a very
He's a puppet.
convincing talker. He's kind of a puppet. Specifically, though, he represents propaganda. The power of propaganda. That's what Squealer represents, right?
Who's Molly all the time?
We'll talk about we'll get to there. Yeah, so next we have Molly. Now, if you remember, Molly was in the early chapters, right? She was the nice white horse who liked ribbons and sugar cubes and all this stuff, the spoiled horse. She ran away on her own, somewhere like chapter 3 or 4. And basically, she was a very foolish white horse. She didn't contribute to the farm, right? She would never work ever. She represents those unwilling to give up, this is a long one, their life of luxury for the new regime, right? She did not want to give up her sugar cubes and ribbons and stuff for the animal collectivism. She liked her old life. What's which? So next we have Boxer. Now Boxer, of course, I think he has the saddest fate of them all, but basically, he's a strong horse. We have his phrases. I'll work harder. Napoleon's always right. You can write those down if you want, but I'm just going to talk about what he represents. We've talked a lot about him already. So Boxer represents the working class. The working class of people, right? Your everyday Joe of society. That's what he represents. He's your everyday person in Russian society. And so he works and works and works and works. Next we have Moses. Now, Moses, if you remember, was the raven. He was the bird. So he was very vocal in the early chapters, and then he disappeared for like 4 or 5 chapters. Where did he go? So he represents the church, specifically promises of
All that.
a paradise after death.
Candy Mountain.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So he represents a paradise after death. Right? Motivate you. Oh, you know what? As long as you work really hard, you can go to this nice, lovely mountain with 1,000,000 sugar cubes. Technically, it's the Russian Orthodox Church, but again, we're not a history class right now. So next, we're going to go into two of our smartest remaining characters. Once we get rid of Snowball, and without the pigs, these are our 2 most intelligent characters left. So Muriel is a goat. So Muriel's a goat. She's good at reading. She's good at reading and understands the pig's corruption. Yeah, so Muriel was one of the 2 characters who was very intelligent. Like he recognized the fact that these commandments were getting changed. He was reading them out for all the other animals. So yeah, very good at reading, understands the pig's corruption. Got a couple characters left. Okay, next, I'm just gonna scroll down just a little bit here. The next we have Benjamin. Benjamin's an interesting character. He kind of like slides under the radar for most of the book, but he really becomes more prevalent at the end. So this is the donkey, right? And he is, by all like terms and definitions, he's an ass. But he's the oldest on the farm and badly tempered. Very good at reading. So these are 2 of our remaining intelligent characters who aren't on the pig's side. So basically, so first off, Benjamin represents the wise elderly, right? Like people who have some experience. And he was very apathetic towards the entire revolution. Basically, he doesn't care what happens. Either way, he knows things will stay bad. Like he kind of predicted that the power would corrupt the pigs essentially, and he's not surprised when it happens. The only thing that bothered him in the entire book was when Boxer was getting taken away. That's the only thing that bugged him. Let's scroll down just a bit. Almost done. We have our dogs, you know, we know what the dogs are, their bodyguards, etc. But these represent the secret police. Right? They do the leader's bidding, they do Stalin's bidding, they do Napoleon's bidding. We have the cat. Again, just for the sake of time, represents intelligence services, right? It's a spy agency. It's always lurking in the shadows, listening to your conversations. It's a spy. We have Clover, who's really just the female working class, right? That's also a horse. So Clover's the other horse, represents the female working class. And I'm going to talk about the sheep in just a second, as you get caught up. All right. And so finally, we have the sheep. So the sheep in this case, they were not intelligent. Frankly, you could put stupid if you want. They were not intelligent, couldn't read, couldn't remember the rules, right? This is the whole reason why they had to do the 2 legs bad, 4 legs good thing, was because of the sheep. They couldn't remember the rules. They just were not smart enough. So they represented the uneducated masses of society. Like, you know, if you ever heard the word of, be a wolf, don't be a sheep, right? Don't be a follower, like be a leader. Like the sheep could never be a leader. They wanted to be led. They wanted a shepherd. He chose sheep for a very purposeful reason. They wanted someone to lead them. And then I'm just going to quickly go into the humans as well. So for Jones, again, I don't need to say, I don't need to say he was the owner. I don't need to say he was like drunk and abusive. I think we have that now. I just want to talk about what he represents for the sake of time. But basically, represents. So Jones in this case represented after they finally, the old regime, I guess would be a way of doing it, right? The old regime and fear of it coming back, right? By old regime, I mean hardship, starvation. The entire reason the animals are letting the pigs do what they want is because, well, we don't want Jones to come back. Even at the very end, they don't remember who Jones is. Like Jones is dead at the end of the book. So next we have Frederick. If you remember, this is the neighbor of Jones. We talked a bit about him before down below in the questions, but he represents Hitler and Germany. Again, there's more context in those questions we did earlier, but Frederick is Hitler and Germany. We have Pinkelton, who represented the British. if you remember, there's a quote in the book where it's, you know, a neglected farm in bad condition. Like that's the other neighbor. And finally, we have Whimper. Now, Whimper, if you remember, was the we're using here is the intermediary, the trader between Animal Farm and the outside world. So he was the dude who was trading for the pigs, right? Spreading the news for the pigs. Now, this one's kind of interesting. So he represented, so he's a businessman, right? He was the first one who realized that, oh, they're going to need someone like to work with them to get some stuff. So he represents the greedy capitalists working with the USSR. Because remember, the USSR at the time was about, they were communism. That was what they were pushing, collectivism, communism. And there were people in the Americas or like, the non-communist worlds who saw they could make some money if they were able to work with them. They were able to trade them certain things they needed. So that's what Whimper represented in the real world. Sorry? Yeah, so if you have this, we can head out for lunch. We'll be finishing up Animal Farm stuff on Wednesday. Reminder, tomorrow we are starting at 8:30 tomorrow, so we can make it on time to Watrous. 8:30.
That's wow.